it's got to be talked about. He's finally been traded after years and years and years of pushing for him to be traded as a whole and here on 3 Point Weekly. He's finally traded. Gabe, give us your initial thoughts. Damian Lillard's a Milwaukee Buck.
I love it. And not only do I love it for Milwaukee, not only do I love it for Damian Lillard, but I also love it for Portland. I think this is one of those few instances where I really saw a win-win trade. And I think it became even more of a win-win when you look at the full context, but I'll get into that in a minute. Just looking at this on the surface level, the Bucks instantly, I think, become the favorite for the title. I think easily the favorite in the East. Now, them and the Celtics will be a conversation still, but I do think I'd pick the Bucks over them right now. And then you can talk about the Nuggets out West, but they're definitely in that upper echelon and a top-tier contender, even more so than they probably already were before they even made this deal. I think with what they gave up, the pieces they really had to get off of weren't too bad. I think when you look at it, it's like, yeah, there was a couple guys there, but all in all, like, I'm not missing the players that they got rid of in this deal, especially for a return of Damian Lillard. You can't say that they didn't get better. And when it comes to picks and all that, this is a team that's trying to contend. Giannis is like 27 or so. Like, he's going to be around for a while. So having picks and building that way, like them getting rid of that, perfectly fine. Also, the way that Giannis was putting pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks front office to surround him with a competitive supporting cast, to get him another star, to extend that championship window, they went out and did that, and they secured not only Damian Lillard, but they now secured Giannis's future there for the foreseeable future now, because the way they were looking before, Drew Holiday looked to be declining a bit. We know Brook Lopez isn't young. Middleton had the injury issues, and we don't know what his future is. But you know now, no matter what happens, you have two genuine superstars, arguably top 10 players in the league, depending on how you feel about Lillard. And that's a strong sign for that team moving forward. Lillard might be over 30, but he's still a very good player. I think was a consensus among us top 3-point guard in the league last year. And so to pair that guy with Giannis, that's going to be a scary combo. Then on the other side, looking at what Portland got back, there's a lot to unpack here. Because this was a 3-teamer, bringing in DeAndre Ayton, I think he could be big for them. Now, I was definitely higher on him than you guys were, but we know there was this like kind of lack of gelling and the issues with coaching and motivational or whatever when he was in Phoenix. But he got out of there. We see him in the Portland facility. He looks so happy, excited to be there. And we know how much of a talent DeAndre Ayton is. A center who can play in the post, a center with a good mid-range game, solid defensively, pretty much just one of the more dynamic centers in the league, to be honest. And for him to really get this chance to shine now in a situation where a lot of the guys are developing, so there's not really a clear-cut order of operations of who's going to get the touches, he can really show out this season. Beyond that, looking at other things, they got a ton of picks, and then they get Drew Holiday. And what do they turn Drew Holiday into? They turn that into Robert Williams, who, if Ayton doesn't work out, is another really solid top 10 level big in the league. Great defender, defensive player of the year caliber center when healthy. Pairing that guy, who's only about 25, with this young core they have, he can also be the center of the future. So now you have two options where if one works out and the other one doesn't, great. If they both work out, great. Now either you find a way to make them both work or one becomes a great trade asset down the road. Like, it's just a win-win. And then getting Malcolm Brogdon in that, it's like, okay, they got this asset, flipped that for more assets and picks. And then an asset they got from that, flip that for more assets and picks. And it's like the Damian Lillard trade at the beginning was they got all these things back, and they just keep turning that into more and more, just instantaneously. And now you look at them, and you have this wealth of young talent. Just looking at their top guys, this is their top 6 right now. Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, and Robert Williams. You're telling me 3 of those guys can't be franchise cornerstones for the future? That's just assuming half of them pan out. Now, the guy there that you most assume doesn't is Grant because he's making his big money now. And by the time these other guys are getting paid, he's probably out of there. But even just looking at the other 5 guys, if 3 out of 5 of them work out, you have 3 franchise cornerstones. And that's on top of a bunch of other picks. And if they're not that good next season, it might be even more to build on top of that. So there's just so much there for them. The only real loser here that I wasn't high on that people aren't really talking about, but I'm sure you guys have thoughts on specifically, is the Suns' angle of this, where Ayton for Nurkic, I'm not liking that. It's probably a lateral move at best. I think the only saving grace there for them is going to be just that, like, DeAndre Ayton had the weird motivational thing and wasn't really gelling that well, had issues with his touches and all that. I think Nurkic is more suited to just fill a role, and maybe that's what they wanted. And we know they were eyeing him already, so I guess good for them because they got what they wanted. But just from a talent perspective, still not big on it. The last thing I want to say is, because there might be one more trade that spirals off of this, even if Malcolm Brogdon doesn't go somewhere else instantly, bringing him in as a guy to just be on the team for like half a season, I think some of what he could teach and pass down to their young backcourt, and really all 3 of them with Simon, Scoot, and Shaedon Sharpe, being able to pass down some things to him, just being that consistent, reliable, steady point guard that can do a lot off the ball, can do things on the ball. If he stays there for a little bit, even like half a season, like I'm saying, I think it could be really valuable to their development. And even if he doesn't stay there, that's just more assets for them. So I'm very pleased with this trade across the board.
Gabe just went in for like 6 minutes, bro. I don't know if he left anything else to be said, but I'll leave the Nurkic talk for Dev because I know he made a tweet about it. That's his guy, so I'll leave that alone for right now. But I want to focus on the Bucks because I feel like this offseason really began with them after they lost in that first round series. And I feel like the pressure was already on them because they lost to an 8 seed, and it started with the coaching change. Like, that was really the beginning of that. And then Giannis making those comments, which was within the last month, about, well, I don't know if like I'll re-sign long-term because I got to see if this franchise really wants to win. That like stamped the pressure, like you said, Gabe. Like, this is like, okay, they got to make that move. And we were just talking literally a week ago about where we thought Dame was going to be at the beginning of the season. Nobody mentioned the Bucks. I mean, we talked a lot about the Raptors. We talked a lot about, Miami. We just thought he'd be back in Portland. Nobody talked about the Bucks. So really came out of left field. But this is that move that really puts them in that upper echelon. This team has everything it takes to win a championship right now. I love how they didn't give up too much, I think, in this trade, which Grayson Allen was a, knockdown 3-point shooter for them. But they still got guys on the roster that can space the floor, at least on paper, which they've had for like the last, 3-4 years on that roster. But you bring in a guy like Dame, I'm just picturing high pick and rolls with Dame and Giannis. That's going to be borderline unstoppable. And the fact that at the end of games, they can just put these two on one side of the floor, clear it out, and just let these guys go to work. It's going to be a dynamic duo that is going to be so fun to watch, man. And these are two guys that go all out every game that they play. We see Giannis is always out there playing 110%. Dame coming off, we think, the best season of his career, at least numbers-wise it was. If he can stay healthy, if Giannis can stay healthy too, because I know he's dealt with some injuries here and there the last couple of years during the regular season, this is a team that can easily win 60 games. Like, they're just that talented, and they still got the depth pieces. Brooke Lopez is still there. Chris Middleton is still there. Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis. They got a lot of really solid guys like Jay Crowder. This is a really good team. We'll see how Adrian Griffin coaches with his first year being a head coach. But, Bucks fans should be excited, and they're going to be an exciting team to watch for sure.
Yeah, the other equation that's going to be really fun to that too, outside of Dame and Giannis, is that Chris Middleton's now a third option. That's a scary third option. This is a guy who we just saw be the number 1 perimeter scorer on a finals team and the number 2 option on that team. He now gets to be the guy on the weak side, getting those open 3-point shots when Dame and Giannis clear out and go on their 2-man game. That's going to be a really tough offense to deal with. It's also nice for Middleton this year, given the injury concerns he's had over the last couple of years. So if he does need to have some time out, that luxury's there. You guys touched on the Suns and that addition of Jusuf Nurkic. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, and not because Nurkic is their saving grace. He's certainly not, but they don't need another guy who's going to go out and create his own shot, be a decent mid-range shooter, put up 16, 18 points. They have scores. They are going to live in the mid-range already between Beal and Booker and KD. They already suffer with too many mid-range shots. Nurkic isn't going to be any worse on the glass. He's a bigger player. He might give you slightly better post defense on some nights, although every other aspect of the defense is questionable, but you're not losing a ton there for what they really need. They don't really need much more of what Ayton gives on the offensive end. And he's not the type of center that's really out-competing a lot of these guys in the glass. He's not that significantly better defensively, at least not over the last couple of years in Phoenix. Haven't really seen that since the finals run. So I don't think they're losing too much there. The most important part is that they get another guy who can space the floor for them and can have a little bit of three-point shooting in Grayson Allen, and they get another wing who might be able to give them some rotational minutes in Nasir Little. They're going to have a lot of guys this year where outside of their Beal, Booker, KD, and now Nurkic, who's our guys? Who are we depending on? And it's still pretty uncertain, but they have a couple of more options now that might be a little bit more dependable and reliable in Grayson Allen and Nasir Little, and that's arguably the most important part for them. That is a lot more valuable than having DeAndre Ayton on their team for them right now because of that lack of depth that we've seen for them since they've made the KD trade, and now even more so with the Bradley Beal trade. So I think it makes sense for them for where they're at right now. But like you said initially, Gabe, I think this is a trade that makes sense for pretty much all parties. This wasn't really a trade that I looked at and said, no one really wins here. There was all a good reasoning and good outcome for everyone involved here. Portland have a great direction, and you mentioned that core six and those 5 core young guys are great, and that doesn't even include Matisse Thybulle, who, if he can continue to shoot the 3 like he did at the end of last year, is a really interesting talent, as well as their other pick this year is Chris Murray. The Bucks are evidently going to continue to be one of the best teams in the league through the next few years, so win-win-win from all sides there. Can't really complain either way, but like you said, Reek, the Bucks weren't really on anyone's radar, but going to make for some fun ball to watch this year. There's no doubt about that.
I'm very excited to see their ball handling, like what they can do with Dame as a ball handler. Because you think of what Dame has done as like, who do we think is the best like pick and roll partner that Damian Lillard's had in his career? It's probably like LaMarcus Aldridge early on, like something like no, like, and that was real early. So like prime Dame, like no, yeah, exactly. So like nobody really great. So now you have Giannis as a pick and roll partner, assuming they run that. I think with the coaching change, I think that'll be implemented more because we know them not implementing that in the past was kind of one of the big criticisms of them. But then having Damian Lillard as that guy, and then also him running pick and pops with Brook Lopez, holy. And like you said, Middleton over there on the weak side, that offense is going to be scary. And as long as you have Giannis and Brook Lopez there, I'm not worried about the defense either.
Another dynamic, too, is like the inverted pick and rolls with Giannis as the ball handler, like what Jokic and Murray do. Like that's going to be deadly as well. And even like a 1-3 pick and roll with Dame and Middleton. He's never had somebody the caliber of Chris Middleton on the wing. Like, so this is just like he's playing with like the best talent on one team that he's ever played with in his career, while he's playing the best basketball of his career. It's like the stars are all lined up for this team to be really, really special. And I'm excited to watch it.